or questions that come up, use the chat and put them in real time so that we don't have a gap, at the end of the presentations trying to start scrambling for thoughts or questions, but we, use the natural flow of the presentations to put the thoughts that come up in the chat. So Mariam, I believe you have a presentation to share. Will you be doing that directly? Will you be sharing it directly, or?
Yes, I can do that. Yes, sure.
Okay, then the floor is yours. I very much look forward to listening to you.
Bettina, I'm not sure I have the option to share.
Yeah, let me see then. So you will just, I apologize for this. I think I have your presentation and I can find it and send it and share it from my screen. I just need to reopen. Yeah, there we go.
Can you see it now?
Yes.
Yes. Yes. Okay, perfect.
So there's no need for me to do anything. Yes, it's visible.
Yeah. Okay, so I shall be starting. Thank you, Bettina. Thanks to the organizer. It's a pleasure to be here today and to share some thoughts about the innovation in green finance. So my name is Mariam Bril. I'm in charge of cooperation and sustainable development at Crédit Agricole du Maroc. Okay, so I have a 10-minute presentation about how we can enable the environment in order to be more inclusive and to do green finance. So I wanted to start with a positive message, which is that innovation actually comes from constraints. And this is a key lesson from our history in Crédit Agricole. We were created as a specialized finance institution in 1961, and our main purpose or only purpose was to finance agriculture. This was our mandate, and we did that until 2003. At this time, we were in great difficulty, almost on bankruptcy.
Mariam, can I interrupt you for just a second? Someone is writing in the chat whether you can switch to the reading mode, sort of so that the slides are bigger. I appreciate that you may have notes that you want to refer to, so maybe that is not possible, but I just wanted to mention it. I can read them fine.
I don't know what you're seeing. Actually, I'm already.
We're seeing the slide, and we're also seeing the other slides on the. It's like in writing mode as opposed to in slideshow mode. But let's not interrupt the flow. Oh, okay, that is perfect. Does that work for you?
Yes. Okay. It was like this from the beginning from my side.
Okay, no, it wasn't like this for us, but now
okay.
Thank you.
Perfect. So as I was saying, we had we had an institutional change and a legal change. So we became a universal bank, meaning that we had to comply with the regulation of the central bank, just as all other commercial banks, which are the regulation of Basel III. And at that time, we had a main constraint, which is that how can we finance agriculture? In Morocco, agriculture, most of the farmers do not have a title. So how can we finance them if they don't have a collateral? And at the same time, this was our main mandate. We kept a public service mission that we still have, which is to finance agriculture. So we had an issue on how we can still comply with our stages while complying at the same time with the regulation. So we started a long discussion with the central bank and with our government in order to find a common solution. So we had the chance to be able to hold this dialogue both with the Ministry of Agriculture, the Ministry of Finance, and at the same time with the central bank. And we could build that discussion on the fact that agriculture is a vital sector for Morocco, and that we all should be working together in order to follow on the financing of that sector. So we achieved two main agreements. The first one was that the Ministry of Finance decided to create a public guarantee fund in order to support 60% of non-performing loans of a new institution that would be created. And that would be dedicated only to non-bankable farmers, meaning the farmers that do not comply with the central bank regulation and that don't have collaterals. And at the same time, we held a parallel discussion with the central bank. This discussion was aiming at to review the classification that is used by the central bank, specifically for the new institution Tamwil Fallah. So instead of provisioning and classifying the rules just as a universal bank, traditional bank, the central bank allowed us to use a different classification and provisioning rules that are adapted to agriculture. And the rationale was that for agriculture, you cannot expect a farmer to pay back their loan if the year has been bad. Not even after 3 months, not even after 6 months, and not even after 9 months. You need at least 1 year. So you need a new campaign before the farmer can make a living, have a revenue, and pay back his loan if the first year was a bad year. So this was the rationale behind this big change. And we had countless meetings with the central bank, and we were really supported by the Ministry of Agriculture and the Ministry of Finance in order to finalize the discussions and sign an agreement in 2008 to set up Tamwil Fallah. So the new institution, it has been, so we signed the agreement in 2008, started the operations in 2010, and now after more than 10 years, we have very interesting results, financing individual farmers, but also cooperatives. And what's very interesting is that this cooperative finances, this institution finances investment loans that can be up to 12 or 13 years. So this is very interesting when you talk about financing long-term transition and long-term investment in practices and in innovative practices. At the same time, and this is what you see. So we found this solution for the missing middle, which represents roughly 40% of the farmers in Morocco. And within Crédit Agricole, there was also an effort in order to comply with the regulations, in the sense that we around, let's say it this way, 90% of our agri portfolio is composed of smallholder farmers, even in Crédit Agricole, even in the main bank, because this is how the structure of agriculture is in Morocco. But still, we can finance them at a low rate, low interest rate, because we have other commercial activities, because we finance tourism, we finance industry, we finance construction, etc. Because we finance these sectors where we can generate very interesting benefits, then we can grant low interest rates to our farmers. So there is an equilibrium that we can find within the bank itself. And thanks to this model, now that you set in place a model which complies with all the rules, the regulations, which is sustainable on a long term, financially sound, then you can make sure that the financing you are doing is green financing. So first, the inclusive model, sustainable model, and then how you can finance green projects. So, for example, we have a date palm project that could be a program that wouldn't have been financed without this model, because we have smallholder farmers.
But you know, they're a portfolio company, they're doing very well. And then on the other question, on the services provided to producers, I think there's been a lot of tech busts there, because it's very easy for you to do an app that provides farm level solutions and farm management solutions, but there's very little kind of curation of how many of these are really useful and how many are not useful. And so you have a very high failure rate of startups and technology companies doing that. And then I would say you have the other category, which are kind of the more established NGOs that provide advisory services to small producers, either connected to finance or not. And I would like to see those two worlds merging a little bit more, but they kind of still exist, and I would say kind of separate spheres. That's not to say that the NGOs aren't adopting super great tech. They are. And it's not like it's not yesterday's NGOs anymore. These people are really taking it to the next level. But I'd like to see more integration between the private, for-profit companies providing services and these last mile producers.
Thank you. I want to push a little bit on the question. I mean, unless there are other questions or comments that, not seeing people's faces, I'm not actually able to pick up on changes in expressions or anything that signals that people may want to share something. I want to drill a little bit into the question of what enables success. So the question for you, Mariam, is the following. You told us about this story. Now I see Dr. Persoon. So if you want to come in, Persoon, I'd welcome that. But Mariam, you told us about the experience of Crédit Agricole. So it's a very peculiar type of financial institution, also in terms of its capacity to engage with the regulators, to engage, with the central bank, to engage with the ministries. I mean, it's not necessarily a small scale, undercapitalized institution. And of course, it has this breadth of understanding of different sectors. So I wonder, if you were to say these have three key enablers of success for us in engaging with government or with the central bank in particular around, the innovations that allowed us to set up Tamwil al-Fellah, for example, what made you an effective partner? What makes a financial institution an effective partner for dialogue on shaping the regulatory environment or the enabling environment? What can you share with other institutions, sort of representing on this call? Yeah.
What comes to my mind, two things. The first one is the common objective. So of course you have to build on a common objective for all. So as I was saying previously, for the negotiation for Tamwil al-Fellah, the common objective was to provide financing to the agricultural sector because it's a major sector in Morocco. And because we had this common objective, then everyone wanted to find a solution and to make sure we still continue to finance agriculture the best way and we can provide finance to smallholder farmers because they are the major part of our rural population. So this is, I think, is key. Then the second one, what makes you interesting for other partners is that you have data. Because you know the sector, because you have an expertise, because you have a broad network and a deep understanding on what at stake, then you are interesting for the regulator. Because, for example, as Crédit Agricole, we had much more data on the behavior of the farmers, the financial behavior of the farmers. When is it a good year? What is a good year? When is it a good year? How does the farmer behave? When does he pay back? Doesn't pay back, etc. Because you have this kind of information, then you worth talking with and you worth listening to, because you can interact and you can give your insights and your view on what's happening. This is the same also for the other ministries. For example, I was giving the example of the Ministry of Energy. What we have done is that first we have prepared the program, indoor program, to see what was happening on the energy efficiency in the agricultural sector. So we audited a number of farms. We discussed with the farmers. We found out that most of the farmers are suffering from the cost of energy, and that was a big constraint. We've noticed, well, a number of things because we did that study ourselves. And then with this data, we went to the Ministry of Energy and we started the discussion with them. And we've also implied them in the, we've included them in the program. So because we have worked together on that, then they were ready to listen to us and to work together with us. And actually they were convinced by themselves at the end of the program that there were things that had to be done, that there was room for innovation in the agricultural sector, that it deserved to be integrated in the global strategy of the Ministry of Energy and Environment.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Marian. So I'd be interested in hearing if any of the institutions, the other institutions involved, whether they're financial institutions, banks, or others, have also successful examples of active engagement in shaping, institutional policy, regulatory innovations together with, the central banks, the regulators, or government. So if that is the case, please raise your hand or put it in the chat. Prasoon, over to you.
Thank you, Bettina. I just want to know, I have one question for Mariam and one definitely for Yuri. So the first question to Mariam is that, because as you said that you are closely working with the central bank, do you think that there is any conversation or any kind of policies which are coming up as a fiscal incentive? For example, in Bangladesh, they have fiscal incentive for the green finance. So what kind of a fiscal incentive in terms of tax on their income or their profit to the bank, how the central bank will be supporting this kind of a fiscal incentive, whether there is any conversation going on or whether already these fiscal incentives are already in place? Can I go for the second question to Yuri?
The question for Yuri, please.
Yeah. Yuri, I think it is very, very, the examples you have given, those who are, it's a kind of what we call it the escalators. And yesterday also we talked about the innovative escalators. And these escalators are really, very, in Asia, we do not have this kind of escalators available readily. Because IADB lab is working on that. So one very interesting thing as it's came to my mind that when you talk about when you are developing something in the lab and innovative incubator, then you are operating on the real time situation, and how you are thinking that whether there is any the scopes of those scaling up those incubator led or the lab led innovations.
Should I go ahead?
Thank you, Bettina. Yeah.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you, Prasun, for your question. Actually, this is a very important question because this is something we believe would help the banking sector to do more in green finance. But with the central bank, the discussion is really at the beginning, because there is capacity building first, which is needed. So all these questions around green finance are quite new here in Morocco. And what's needed first is the taxonomy. So the central bank is working on this taxonomy on green finance. What is green finance? What can be defined as green finance? And then starting from that, you can put all the instruments that you would need to encourage the sector to align to reorient their portfolios towards this green finance. And on this taxonomy, I know that the central bank is really willing to put something in place quite soon. And their first step was to discuss with all the banking sector on what they're doing. For example, we already have a guide on green bonds, and they're working also on something for gender bonds. So things are moving slowly, but I think everybody's here in the financial sector and banking sector is now aware of what is expected, and things are going to be mandatory. Now it's rather on a voluntary basis, but we know that since the central bank is in the place and is starting to work on something, we know that at a medium term or short term, there will be mandatory measures in order to align the banking sector on this green finance.
Just to follow up, Miriam, on this, do you think that because in our this kind of a platform or this kind of discussions, we generally missing the central banks? So how do you think that we should reach out to them? I mean, through the development financial institutions like yours, or maybe a platform like Cefin or GAPFin or maybe Afraka. So what is your idea on that? Yeah, thank you.
Well,
you have to be very careful what you say. I think you'll have to say all of the platforms that you're part of, Prasun, are very relevant, starting from Afraka, of course. I think you're frozen now, Matt. Yeah, Mariam is frozen, so maybe it's actually a good time for Yuri to answer the question you posed to him, if he can still remember. Can you still remember, Yuri?
Yeah, I can remember. Okay. Hi, Prasun, good to see you. So I would say, first of all, I would say Latin America looks towards Asia as a model for innovation and how to set up a kind of more robust and kind of high growth innovation ecosystem. So I think Brazil can only dream to have the ecosystem that India has, or so I think there's a big gap here in performance and finance, etc. So I'm humbled that you recognize our contribution. Thank you so much. So in terms of, I'll just say very quickly, because we're coming, in terms of scaling up, it's difficult. We have a 70-something% failure rate. And we have a TVPI, which in some cohorts is actually below 1, sometimes 1.2. So it's a very difficult business, no? But what we did structure in IDB Group is that IDB Invest, the private sector, takes a lot of activity of the successes. So they take the successes and they can provide financing, And increasingly, the market can also provide financing to companies that are successful in transitioning from that seed to Series A and Series B. So that's how the financing is structured within the group. And no, just thank you so much for the question.
Great. I think we're going to be kicked out of the room in no time, but Mariam, if you want to answer the question